Okay, we're going to start with the Hibiscus Applique. So I've cut my exterior panel for my pipe, for my etta pouch, and I've cut this in faux leather because we're going to be doing faux leather applique. You can use fabric for the backing, but you need to use a non-fraying fabric for the outside. So I've got a piece of faux leather that I've cut. This is just one side of the etta pouch. I've taken my template, and basically what I've done is I've cut an inch around. So I've basically put my ruler on, and I've cut what is effectively a 6-inch square. So it's around. I will actually add that to the template, so you won't have to measure. You'll just be able to cut around the square. And I'm going to now. This is the top of the etta pouch, the bit with the little extra bit on. So I'm just going to measure down an inch from the top, and I'm going to position my template so that the side is butted up against the edge, but is an inch away from the top. I'm just going to take a bit of decorator's tape, assuming I can find the beginning of it. And I'm going to position that a little bit on all 3 sides. Just want to hold that template in place. I don't want it moving. And you're going to need a nice sharp craft knife. Now, craft knives are very much a personal thing. If you like expensive ones, then have an expensive one. If you like a cheap one, have a cheap one. But do try, and if you're going to buy them with extra blades. And what we're going to do is we are going to very carefully cut along all of the lines of the template, cutting out the shape of the hibiscus flower and the leaf. I try not to take my blade out if I can help it, because it's difficult to get your blade back into the same point. Obviously at the end of the leaf there, you do have to take your blade out whether you like it or not, and at most of the corners. But for the sort of straight or long curvy bits, I try and just move my fabric around. This is quite fiddly, so take it slowly. I'm sorry, I get a bit quiet when I'm cutting because I'm kind of concentrating. I'm always very aware that these are very sharp, these craft knives, and thus I don't really want to cut myself. I'm always pulling the blades towards myself. I don't ever cut away. So I'm always turning the fabric so that the blade is coming towards me. I've got more control that way. Now if you've got arthritic wrists, and I do have arthritis in my thumbs, you may need to do this in a couple of sittings as opposed to doing it all in one hit. But there isn't actually that much cutting to do. You just need to be quite firm with it so that you can get through the layers of the faux leather. We're back to the beginning, and my paper part will come off quite easily. Then, drop them. Then what I need is often my snips, because I just need to cut out. That hasn't cut through at all. That's very bad. So I'm going to cut that again, I think. That obviously wasn't as sharp as I thought it was. Right, because it hasn't cut, it's just scored the top, it hasn't actually cut right the way through. I'm going to come back and I'll show you how to fix that. I'm going to actually change the blade so that I've got a decent blade in for the next part though, because otherwise this will be a nightmare. So just popped a new blade in there, and hopefully the rest of the flower will come beautifully out. Right, I'm going to do this stamen part now. Oh yeah, I can feel that that's cutting right through. I hadn't felt that that felt different. I should have felt that. So this is actually probably the most difficult part to cut because it's all curves and they're quite close together. So take it slowly. Turn your fabric round as you cut. I just like to put my thumbnail on to stop the template moving. And if you've got one of these circular cutting mats, the ones that spin round, this is actually ideal to do on one of those. I've got one, but it's quite new and I don't really want to ruin it by using a craft knife on it, so that's why I'm using this little one, which is a very ancient one that I bought I don't know when, but because it's in metric I hardly ever use it, so it's used for sort of crafty type things like this rather than so there we go, that's the paper part come out. Now we should be able to just carefully remove the faux leather. Now, because faux leather has a sort of a fabric backing, sometimes you find little fibres are still caught. So you sometimes have to go around with a pair of snips and just trim off those fibres. Still got a fibre over there. And you can see we've just literally taken that piece out, and that's what should have happened with the leaf, but it hasn't. So I am going to go back in once I take the template off. I'm going to go back in because it is scored, so I can see where it's actually come off from. But I'm going to now do the flower. You can see I've put my template on the front of my faux leather. If you want to do it from the reverse, then you can do. I just like to do it on the front because, well, just because I can really. I don't know. I don't actually know. I don't think there is a good reason why you need to do it on the front. I think it's just force of habit. If we were doing some decorative stitching as well, we would put it on the reverse so that we could do our decorative stitching, but we're not doing that in this anniversary event. I have got several other techniques for you, some different designs. So this is the standard reverse applique, and reverse applique is the thing in part that we did on the Libertas clutch. So if you want to find out how you do reverse applique and decorative stitching, you will need to buy the clutch pattern because it gives you both. I'm often getting asked about it since we did it in the carpet bag sew along, but I'm afraid the carpet bag sew along is no longer available for to join. Not very often I'm this quiet, is it? Usually got something to waffle about. So I think that's cut through there. Again, we've got a few little fibres that are stuck, so I'm just going to release those with my craft knife. If you don't want to use your craft knife to release the fibres, you can use your snips if that makes you feel more comfortable. And just very carefully, just a few more little bits. You often find it's just at those little pointed areas where you get the fibres. If you take this out all in one hit, I'll show you what you can do with that afterwards. There we go, I'm just going to pop that over there. And then I have this other side. If you use your fingers like I do to hold the template to stop it from puckering, make sure that you keep your fingers behind the blade, not in front, just in case your blade slips. If you put your finger there and your blade slips, you're in big lumber. Whereas if your blade slips and your fingers are behind it, not such big lumber. Now this is just a template that I've taken basically from a photograph, a picture on the internet. What I did make sure is that the picture was a free picture to use, because some stencils and templates are not free. And whilst it's nice to be able to find a design on the internet that you like, you do need to make sure that you are able to actually use it, because some artwork belongs to people, so you do have to be just a bit careful. So let's just remove that piece. And again, I'm just going to take those fibres. You do have to be careful because this is quite fine. I'm just going to get rid of that bit out the middle because that's in my way now, but I'm trying to catch the fibres on these this side. So if you prefer to use snips to do the fibres, that's fine. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So there we go, that's that last bit taken out. Right, now I'm going to take the template off because I just want to get this leaf out. Now, I don't know if you can actually see, it's cut through the top layer of the faux leather, but not through the back layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push the blade, it has in places cut through, push the blade through to cut through the back. So it's just effectively cutting through the fabric backing on the faux leather. It'll take a bit of doing, but whatever you do, don't try and cut it again because using the template, because if you do, you'll just end up with a jagged line and it will not look great. So the moral of this story is check that your blade is sharp before you start. Don't be like Christine. Does come away, just it's better to cut it the first time than it is to faff around doing this. So you just have to keep moving it until so you can see the where the actual cuts were. So the cuts have gone through the front of the faux leather but not through the back part of it. So it's just the fabric that I'm needing to cut now. If you give it a little stretch, you can just pop your blade through and it will just go through that. Ooh, what a fiddle. Right, I'm going to turn the camera off, and I think, because I don't think you need to see me doing this, it's going to take me for ages. So the moral of the story is check that you have a nice fresh blade in your craft knife before you start, so that you can cut through in one go rather than having to come back and fiddle about like this. But I'll come back once I've done it and I'll show you how we do the reverse applique.